As we dive into John chapter 7 today, just let me give you a brief overview of the chapter. There's a feast that takes place down in Jerusalem, and Jesus decides not to go at first, or he said he's going to go down a little bit later. His brothers say, well, why don't you go ahead and go down to this feast, because if you are who you say you are, because it says his brothers did not believe yet, then you should be in Jerusalem preaching, not up here in Galilee. And so you see this dynamic between people in Galilee that have seen the miracles, but also know that the Messiah really should be reigning in Judea if they expect a earthly king or an earthly Messiah. And so you start seeing tension build in this chapter between those that believe and those that don't. At the first part, it's between his brothers and Jesus. At the second half, you see the Pharisees and Jesus. But what you also see is that in the midst of the crowd, when Jesus does go down and start teaching in the synagogue, and he goes down and starts teaching, that the crowd believes who he is. And then they have some discussion about the Messiah as well. So you start seeing an intensification in this chapter about who the Messiah is, and really opening up and creating a dialogue as people start fleshing out who is the Messiah, what's he supposed to look like, is he going to do more miracles than this guy, and should we believe or should we not believe? And then it also starts mentioning that people are now trying to seek and arrest Jesus, trying to kill Jesus. So that's an overview. It's a heavy chapter, so dig into it, take your time, go through it slowly. You may need to go through multiple times, but it should really be a good way to dive in and look to see as things are ramping up in the Gospel of John. All right, but as we go through our 5 questions, as we go through, make sure you're telling people stories, okay? But also, you're going to find a name that came up earlier in the Gospel of John. So what's another name that pops up here? And look at the context of how of the conversation that he has with the people, okay? But also start fleshing out, are these legitimate questions that they have about who the Messiah is? Are those questions that apply even to us today? And are those similar questions that maybe people that we see that we can apply in our own life, or we can apply with others around us that we have conversations with? Okay, as the world looks for a savior still, they may be asking the same questions. Who is this guy named Jesus? Where did he come from? And also, like, is there going to be someone else that can come and do more than what this guy can do? Maybe those are questions we even see in our contemporary setting when we try to explain who Jesus is and that he is the Messiah. So look at in the context this week of how does this translate in our modern day culture? How do we explain that Jesus is the Messiah of the world? He is the anointed one, the chosen one of God. But also, how does that look even in modern context? 2,000 years later, how do we see that envelop in the same conversations we're having today? Okay? God bless and enjoy. This is a story out of the Gospel of John, chapter 7, starting at verse 25. It's a true story. Okay? So some of the people in Jerusalem during this feast were wondering why no one has come forward to arrest Jesus. And they started thinking, well, maybe he is the chosen one. Maybe they haven't made up their mind if he's the chosen one or not, or they would have arrested him. And can it be that this is the Messiah? So then they ask, but we know where this person comes from. Won't we not know where the Messiah comes from when he arrives? Jesus answered them and he said, you know me, you know where I come from, but I do not come on my own accord. I come only by the one who sends me. And so they were seeking to arrest him, but no one laid a hand on him because his time had not yet come. Many people had believed in Jesus because of the things that he said and did. And they said, when the Christ comes, will he do more signs than this man? And so that kind of leaves the question out there. This is a dialogue now, not part of the story. So it leaves the question out there. If this guy's doing all these miracles, and he's not the Messiah, then the Messiah has to come and be better than this guy. So you still kind of see that struggle going, but they're also saying, I mean, look at what he's done so far. I don't see how we can not call him the Messiah. So that's the story of John chapter 7, verse 25, with just a little bit of a documentary at the end for me, okay? Explanation at the end for me. All right, God bless. Have a good week.